Ladies and gentlemen, if you're sitting at the back, could you move forward, please? If you're sitting at the back, could you move forward? Thank you. Whatever you do, don't look at yourself in there, okay? It's very scary.
I know, I found that during the plenary this morning. Getting myself very shocked.
Right, we don't need the baby anymore, do we? Huh? We don't need the baby anymore? No, no. Bring the baby back. Right, ladies and gentlemen, hello. Good evening. How are you feeling? Okay? Good? Fantastic? Excellent. Okay. Just one quick question before we start. We need to make this as realistic as possible. So I just wanted to know, if we could, has anyone got a baby we could borrow for the next 60 minutes? Has anyone got a baby? No? Okay. Right, never mind. We'll have to do without. Okay. As you know, this session is the debate. And some of us have been eagerly looking forward to this moment. And my sacred responsibility is to introduce the chair and then to give him my bell. And I don't lend my bells to anybody, okay? So, here we go. And I just want to say a couple of words about Chris Brandwood. He is the Director English for the British Council's South Asia region and is based in the New Delhi office. And he's held teaching and management positions with the British Council in Naples, Rome, Sofia, Bilbao and Barcelona before joining the South Asia team in August 2010. He also got a degree from the most wonderful place in the world, Leicester University, and also Henley Management College. But the reason why we've chosen him for this important role is because he is a fencer. And we thought his fencing skills might come in handy in the next hour. So my great pleasure to welcome Chris. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. As chair of the debate, it's a bit more really to be the referee. And this is the debate. We have two opposing teams. We're expecting an honest, open, fair contest. We're also expecting it to be competitive. We're expecting it to be fierce. We're expecting it, hopefully, to be hilarious. And we wish it to be, above all, decisive, as we have a challenging matter to be debating. You can see in the photograph that was there before on the PowerPoint, we can have that back again. Where's the picture? No picture? Where's the baby? Here we go. There's a picture of me 38 years ago. Or maybe a couple more than 38 years ago. You can see the baby's looking confused. And so may well be the baby looking confused. What is this about, babies and bathwater? I don't know if everybody's entirely familiar with this expression, but what we're talking about here is the new and the traditional. As the new comes in this case, in teaching, we hear all sorts of newfangled ideas, new technologies, new techniques, different classroom practice, multiple intelligences, communicative methods, mobile phones, you name it, Facebook, Twitter, the new. As the new comes in, we have the bathwater there. Will the baby be washed away? Or will, in fact, the baby be left glowing better than ever before? So the question is, are we going to value change, or are we going to value the traditional? We have two teams here who are going to inform us. So I have to give you, as the referee, set out the rules. We have, on each team, we have two people, two proposers and two opposers. On the proposal of the motion, I will repeat the motion. The motion is, this House believes that moving away from traditional methodologies in language education, the baby has been thrown out with the bathwater. Proposing the motion, we have Rod Balaitho, sitting here behind me, Academic Director of Norwich Institute of Language Education from the UK, and Deepali Dharmaraj, Senior Teacher Trainer from British Council India, who's based in Pune. They are going to propose this motion. Yeah, let's give a round of applause to the team. Over to the opposition, opposing the motion. Diane Miller, Regional English Language Officer from the US Embassy, and Usha Venkat, well known as the CELTA Senior Tutor and Assessor, who's based in Chennai. Yeah. Okay, I have a chart here of the time. We have inevitable slippage time at the start, 5 minutes. It's gone. Introduction, scene setting, I'm almost done, 5 minutes. Then we listen first opposer, first opposer, second opposer, second proposer, second opposer. Each has 6 minutes. And I will, in order to monitor this, I will use the traditional technology as well as using an iPhone to keep the time, so that we also have a balance in technological control. Then, after each of the opposers and proposers has spoken, we will call for questions from you. So we'll be expecting some tough, hostile, difficult questions to really spice up the debate. So if they haven't given you something really juicy to chew on, please give them a hard time from the floor. After that, we will then ask one proposer and one opposer to come back as a form of rebuttal or summary to give their final words, and then at the end, we all get to vote. And then, of course, hopefully we will have a winner, and we will know whether the poor baby is going down the plug hole with the bathwater, or whether it will be sitting there glowing and rosy for the future. Okay, I will now stop. I'm going to sit down and invite the first proposer to speak for 6 minutes.
Okay, just a microphone check. Have you got me? Can you hear me? Yeah, great. So, first of all, let's just look at what we mean by traditional methods, because traditional methods mean different things in different places. And I'm going from the starting point that traditional methods have something to do with grammar translation methods, with literature-based teaching, and so on. And this is my definition, the one I'm going to use for the purposes of this argument. I'm a product of traditional methods. I learned German at school by the most traditional methods possible, and I'm now completely fluent in German, almost bilingual, as a result of this wonderful experience of learning through grammatical paradigms, long lists of vocabulary. I know some words in German which you wouldn't dream of as a result of this experience. And I'm a success story when it comes to language learning by traditional methods. And I dare say that sitting in this room, there are a whole pile of other people who are equally success stories of traditional teaching, because you are English teachers, English teacher trainers, and I bet that most of you in this room learned your English through traditional methods. And look at your success now, how you are actually progressing through the career ladder. You've all come through traditional methods, and you're English teachers. So yeah, you can keep that applause going anytime you like. I need it. There is an awful lot of evidence that traditional methods support certain types of learner. So if we throw traditional methods out and the baby goes out with the bathwater, we will be disadvantaging a whole pile of learners who would have preferred to learn by traditional methods. Evidence from the UK also suggests that every time we abandon traditional methods in classrooms, we have failures going on. I have one daughter, she'll kill me if she knows I'm going to say this. I have one daughter who learned her foreign languages by traditional methods, and one who was exposed to so-called communicative methods. The one who learned by traditional methods speaks brilliant German, absolutely brilliant German. The one who learned by communicative methods speaks German, but makes grammatical mistakes all over the place, and fails to make connections between nouns and adjectives, for example. So there's an awful lot of evidence for me that these traditional methods are needed. Another thing which is associated with traditional methods, which is often debunked, is the notion of teacher talking time. And I just want to say a word about that, and also about L1 use in the classroom, the translation side. Let's start with the translation side. If we abandon L1 in the classroom, if we abandon the use of the mother tongue in the classroom, and if we abandon translation, we are depriving students of learning opportunities, the scaffolding that they need to approach a foreign language. And there's a lot of evidence that the conceptual framework which L1 offers us is needed in L2, and that students, even if they're not allowed to use L1 in the classroom officially, they still refer to it constantly. So let's allow them to use L1 when they need it, and let's not banish translation from the classroom. As for teacher talking time, there's a huge false dichotomy which is peddled, especially on initial teacher training courses, that teacher talking time is bad and student talking time is good. Nonsense. If teacher talking time contributes towards the learning of learners, let the teacher talk for some of the time, because the teacher has to provide models for students to follow, good models of English for students to follow. What is far more important is, and this is to do with the learner-centered, teacher-centered dichotomy, which is another false dichotomy. Learner-centeredness by itself is not a teaching method, and it's not an approach which is proven to have given good results. What I say is, let's look at learning-centeredness in the classroom. Let's look, for heaven's sake, at what promotes learning, and if the teacher talking for some of the time promotes learning, let the teacher talk. But let the teacher know when to talk and when to shut up. So what I'd like to plead for here is that we know something about the fact that learners learn in different ways and in different styles. We know that some teachers need some learners need a lot of opportunities to talk, some learners need a lot of opportunities to listen. Let's go for principled eclecticism. Let's keep the baby in with the bathwater. Let's have a mix, and let our teachers be skillful enough to apply traditional methods when they are needed and modern methods when they are needed. Thank you very much. Was I on time?
with 3 seconds to spare. Fantastic timing. Very good.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now,
Okay, and mic check.
the first, yeah. Okay, ready to go?
The Honorable House has argued that over time we have thrown out the traditional methods with the bathwater, and that we don't use these traditional methods, and we should bring them back. But I am going to argue on the opposing side that we have never thrown out anything. Let me tell you a fairy tale. Once upon a time, there was a baby in the bathwater. I, the teacher, looked at the baby and thought, oh, I should do something to the baby. I'm a teacher. So I brought 2 cups, a blue cup and a green cup, and I taught the baby to translate from one cup to the next, from Hindi to English, English to Hindi, German to English, English to German. But I got bored with my cups. So I went back to the toy store and I got a new toy. I got a purple boat. And I said to the baby, repeat after me, purple boat, this is a purple boat, this is a purple boat, this is a purple boat, repeat after me, repetition, memorization, wonderful. Until I got bored. So I went back to the toy store and I found the most wonderful toy. The rubber ducky. And look, baby, look. The ducky can talk. Talk to the ducky. Communicate with the ducky. The communicative language teaching method was born. We don't need the cups. We don't need the boat. We only need the ducky. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a fairy tale. This is not true. We have not progressed and replaced anything. If you look at studies of English language teaching over the past 25 centuries, over the past 2,000 years, all good teachers have used the cups sometimes, the boat sometimes, and the duck sometimes. Perhaps the academics say you should only use the duck, never use the cups. But good teachers in real classrooms around the world use a mixture of both. Sometimes they'll use a cup when their students need it. Sometimes they'll use the duck. Sometimes they'll use translation. Sometimes they'll use memorization. Sometimes they will use communication. So I think it is time to move beyond methods. We should stop going to the toy store and finding new toys to entertain the baby with. As Professor Kumara Vadivelu said, it is time to move beyond methods and focus on learning. When we turn away and we go to the toy store, what does the baby do with all of these toys? The baby will take the cup and put it and make it a hat, because babies and students are creative. The student might take the boat and the duck and look for what's the same between the duck and the boat. They'll look for patterns. If we look at the research for brain-based teaching and neurological ELT, and we focus on how babies, how students learn, they learn when they are allowed to be creative. They learn when they are given challenges. They learn by making patterns, making connections between things. They learn when we give them a choice. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the duck or the cups? You choose. You are the students. And they learn when teaching is personalized. What memories does the duck bring back for you? Did you have a duck when you were a child? Tell me about that duck. So if we stop debating which method is better, should we bring back the old, should we get rid of the new? The argument is not about bringing back the old, getting rid of the new. The argument is about using all of the tools in our bathtub to make sure that the learner is engaged with learning. And I would argue that we need to move beyond methods, beyond prescriptive, don't do this, don't do that, do this, don't do this, that we need to move beyond that and look at how students are actually learning in our classroom. Intelligent, well-trained, good teachers will pick what is valuable for that particular student or that particular baby in that particular bathtub and help them learn the best that they can.
So we've had one voice from each side. Does that work? No, one voice from each side. Now ask the second proposer. Working. Second proposer to take the floor. Okay?
There is good reason that in India we have bucket baths. We don't bathe in fancy bathtubs because we don't want to risk losing things that are valuable. The term throwing the baby out with the bathwater is simply, what it means is that something valuable has been tossed out of the English classroom when trying to get rid of something useless. So let's identify useless, something that's not useful, not valuable, aspects of traditional methodologies. Let's look at decontextualized learning. Rod just mentioned a little earlier about the focus of teaching English through literature. I'm sure members of the audience, and including me, have gone through a system where we memorized Shakespeare and various odes to various things, and they were replicated in exam papers, and that defined how well we learned the language. The focus was on memorization with very little importance given to actual communicative competence. That's useless, pointless. Secondly, there was unnecessary dependence on the teacher, characterized by very little development of critical thinking skills, or any thinking skills for that matter. So we were dependent on the teacher giving us answers to exam questions. We were dependent on the Pragati guides, for those of you who studied in Maharashtra, to study for our HSC exams. And there was this dependence on a textbook or a teacher, pointless and useless. And the third, and perhaps one that we've all lived through, including my worthy opponents, boring lessons characterized by high teacher talk, which made us and many children into passive learners. However, to counteract this, the danger is that valuable aspects of traditional methodology have also been tossed out. There is a danger that learners would only be interested in the quick and easy contemporary articles, short articles available on Facebook pages, for example, or videos on YouTube. Parents in the audience may agree with me and will be familiar with the eye roll when you recommend a particular book to your children and they say, I'd rather watch the movie. Children don't want to read anymore because that has been taken away from the classroom. The importance of reading classic literature and articles that actually develop them and round them as people. There is a danger also that the teacher will abdicate their responsibility as a guide and leave students too early to discover key concepts for themselves. This could be based on a misunderstanding of the term learner autonomy. In a recent study, which is available freely online, Sutton Trust and Durham University find actually in favor of certain traditional teaching styles. Researchers outlined common practices which are not supported by evidence, and these include allowing learners to discover key ideas for themselves. Learners need the teacher, that's why they're in the classroom, and learners need guidance from the teacher. The third danger, which relates to boring lessons, is that learners may become activity junkies. The main part of my job as a teacher trainer is to work with teachers in mentoring and development, which includes observing lessons, facilitating reflection, post-lesson observations. In one observation recently, a particularly perceptive teacher told me that she'd been so busy with ensuring that the learners had fun that she didn't focus enough on what they were actually learning. So the fear is that an English lesson is a series of activities, often meaningless, which don't ensure that any learning has happened. Yes, indeed, the bathwater, the things that need to be discarded, is decontextualization, unnecessary dependence, and boredom. However, let's not toss out the important babies too.
Okay. Okay, second member of the team on the left.
Hello, everybody. I've been listening with great interest. I had a fairy tale told to me. I've had some TTT from this side, and now I'm going to give you my perspective. Let's forget fairy tales and abstract ideas and TTT and cut to a real classroom. What happens in a real classroom? So scenario one, the teacher's just been to an INSET program, has had in-service teacher training, has been introduced to a newfangled idea, like Chris said, and wants to use a process approach in the classroom, wants to use maybe a task-based approach in the classroom. She plans her lesson meticulously. She thinks of the timing and everything. She thinks of the interaction pattern. She tells herself, TTT should be very low. I should maximize student participation. I should engage them in interaction, and I should monitor very sensitively. I should pick up errors and correct them much, much later, delayed error correction, because I don't want to inhibit them. And then she goes into the classroom. She sets up her task very enthusiastically. But the students have no idea what she's talking about when she says, let's rank the reasons for global warming. And they're looking at one another and saying, what's she talking about now? What is global warming? And the teacher's thinking, oh my God, I didn't give them the information. Next time I do this lesson, I'll do a little bit of reading. Maybe reading for gist, reading for specific detail, reading for inference to give them the information. And well, if I'm going to give them some reading, they might have some blocking vocabulary there. So I better take care of the blocking vocabulary. And afterwards, I want them to debate global warming, for which they'll need pronunciation. So, well, I think I better do some drilling, you know, some substitution drilling, some circle drilling, repetition drills, so that they get the pronunciation right. And maybe I can be a model and give them my opinion and lead into the speaking. That would involve them a little more. But this poor teacher's lesson fails. She comes back to the staff room. When she reflects, she thinks, yes, this is what I'll do the next time. Now, what the Honorable House and my worthy opponent seem to be saying is what I'm going to paint in scenario 2. Scenario 2, the teacher plans meticulously. He has a wonderful lesson plan. His Delta tutor would have been proud of him. He's thought of all the problems with meaning, pronunciation, form, practice activities. He's timed every stage. He's got a rationale for every stage. He's used variety in activity, interaction, goes, looks at the clock, sets it there, delivers the lesson perfect. Widdowson would have been proud of him. Rod Bolitho would have been very proud of him. He does everything according to the book, the traditional method. Wilkins would have been really proud of him. He goes back to the staff room. Good job. Cut back to the classroom. The students are looking at each other. What just happened? Why are we here? Did you do any of that work he asked us to do? Oh no, when the role play was going on, I was actually Googling to find out, and I found there's a coaching class next door where they guarantee success. So we need to prepare for the group discussion, and let's all go there. Do you think these students come back the following day? No, they don't. So following methods, traditional methods, without connecting with your students is of no use. The teacher can be a model and keep talking, but if you're going to hog airtime and take it away from your students who want to improve their speaking skills, then there is a problem. In multilingual societies like India, it's a huge problem, because once you go out of the classroom, you've got recourse to several languages. You hardly ever use English, or you just switch between codes. In the classroom, they want an opportunity to speak. At that point, if the teacher keeps on and on, then you're taking away airtime. What do you think the students are doing? Checking on the SMS to see if there's another class. On Google, they're browsing the net, checking to see if there's another class they can go to where they have an opportunity to be involved. So my point is, be connected to the classroom. Have knowledge of all the methods. Use whatever you want, but be connected to the classroom and to your students.
That's great, incredibly punctual, everybody, right on time. Now, this is the opportunity for the audience to make some comment. Not quite sure how we'll control this. Maybe I'll stand up over here. Is this microphone on as well? Yeah. I don't know if the technicians somewhere can do something about the annoying bleep that's happening behind. That would be nice. We've got 10 to 15 minutes now. One thing I would like to ask, actually I have a note as well for George. George, can I just give you that? The floor, everybody here is welcome to put their hand up and make a comment. Please could I ask you to make a short comment, maybe 1, 2, 3 sentences. Because if one person speaks for 10 minutes, we'll only have one person speaking. Let's try and have 20 people speaking in 10 to 15 minutes, something like that. So I'm not sure, where are the microphones? We've got microphones, I think.
I have it, Chris. Yeah.
You've got one there. Yeah. So, hands up. There's a lady over there with her hand up straight away. That's right.
Good evening, everyone. I'll keep it short. I just wanted to share some statistics. Actually, 2011, I had conducted a nationwide survey, kept it open for 15 days for students across India. And they were basically college students from small colleges as well as premier institutes like BITS and NITs, etc. The data that I want to share is very relevant to this, is that I had put in, various slots, and I'd asked that, what are the ways that you find yourself comfortable with? There were language labs, and then there was traditional teaching, then there was communicative. Only the data that I want to share is that, without getting biased anywhere, is that there was an inclination of around 740 students, if I can remember, towards traditional, I'm not getting biased, but yes, it was still traditional, but yes, as ma'am said, that, they are still looking towards, as she said that, let the students select their toys. So there was a variety of inclination towards communicative, coaching, so this is just the data that I thought I should share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. How about the gentleman here in the front row? And in a moment, I'll give the panel an opportunity to respond to any comments, or if anyone has a direct question, then please do. This gentleman here, and then after there. Yeah, okay? It's working, just speak. No, it's not working. There's another microphone here if you want. Take this.
What is our experiences while working in Bliss project, that we had traditional classes, but with the addition of new techniques and new skills, we have made traditional classes more interested. For example, what we used to do that we went to the classroom, took the chalk, started writing something on the blackboard, giving lectures during the whole period. But now what we are doing, we are experimenting, and the result is very positive, that I write something, this is the topic, then I divide the whole class into several groups. Thereafter, they discuss, and as a teacher, I go on monitoring, and it makes the class more interested, students are more involved, STT is high, TET is reduced. In this way, I think traditional classes, we cannot outrightly reject traditional classes, but with the application of new techniques and skills, we can make it more interesting and child-centered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One more comment or question here, and then I'll pass briefly over to the teams.
So yes, as I told that my experience is concerned teaching, the traditional method is a gem one, as I feel. I had experiments with that new technology and the traditional teaching also. I got a good result in traditional method. So as that live and that on the screen, we are going to watch on the screen. Now and then we used to see you also. We are not satisfied with this screen. As the traditional method concerned with the live, and the new methods, as ma'am told, is concerned with the screen. The live is more effective than on the screen. Thank you.
Okay. Would the proposing team like to make any comments to any of those statements?
No, it's good to hear more from the floor, I think.
Yeah? Should we have some more? We'll have some more. Okay. What we'll do now is if you could give us quick question, yeah? Short question. So let's have 3 quick questions. There's Kath down here at the front. 3 questions we'll have.
Hello. I've got a very provocative question. Please excuse me for being cheeky. Do you think that sometimes our reluctance to use new technologies has got more to do with the fact that we, those of us who are a bit older, don't understand how to use them very well? We're afraid of them. We're afraid of making a fool of ourselves. So instead of saying we don't like these technologies for this reason or that, we make excuses. I'm asking that with my utmost respect because I fall into that category.
Okay, great. So age and technologies. Gentleman over here, that's Anil.
I was wondering, with due apologies to the panel, in the post-methods era, what's the importance of methodology?
Okay, what's the importance of methodology? And a gentleman over here as well, the red turban. Behind you is my friend. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear.
Good evening, panelists and audience. My question to panelists is, in our setup, our classrooms are examination-centric. And in examination-centric classrooms, we have to depend upon traditional methods. But as far as competency is concerned, then you have to switch over to technological modern methods. How would you suggest we have to balance traditional and modern methods to examination-centric classrooms?
Okay,
thank you.
Great question. Right, so we've got 3 questions then. One about technology and age, one about does methodology have a place, and the other one about are classrooms too exam-centric. So I'll give it over to the panel, then we'll have some more questions after that.
Very good evening, everybody.
No, we'll go to the panel now. You can be next, okay? Panel, volunteer.
Yeah, can I just come on one of the questions from Catherine about reluctance to use new technology. I think it'd be a mistake to equate modern methods only with technology. I think there are so many other ways of approaching teaching in the classroom and learning. You know, technology's been around a really long time. We've had language labs, we've had tape recorders, we've had video, all the rest of it, and we take them all in our stride. But I think it behoves us as teachers to evaluate the possibilities of new technology before deciding whether or not to go with the new technology. And I sometimes have the feeling that technology for technology's sake is taking over in many of our classrooms. We have to be careful. We have to evaluate whether it's working or not, whether it delivers or not. So I just wanted to respond to that one. I don't see it as excuses because I'm getting ancient. I do use technology. I use smart boards and things like this because I've evaluated the use of these technologies. And that's what every teacher ought to be doing.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to come in on that point about the post-method era because you raised it, Diane.
There was a question beyond method and what exactly is the implication of method or methodology. Now, if we look at history of methodology, initially, English language teaching methodologies were based on the context, history, politics, culture, the World War, and so on. And it was mostly intuitive and pragmatic. Later, there was research. Empirical research gave us other methodologies. So with the communicative language teaching, we stopped with working on intuition and our observation of the human race. After that, it's all very scientifically based, whatever happens afterwards with regards to methodology. The best thing about methodology is you're not burning your bridges. You are building on your knowledge of language acquisition. So it's only getting better and better and better. The baby is getting stronger, healthier. Today we have a cool dude who can do several things. That doesn't mean you give up grammar translation. That is still valid, relevant today. It doesn't mean you give up audiolingual methodology, still relevant today. Any structural approach to language is very valid today, as important today as it was in the past. But let's jump up with joy, because we've got new methodologies now that tell us more about the theory underpinning these things. Now, beyond methods, that coinage came because it's no longer Widdowson or Wilkins or Chomsky dictating the terms. It is the class teacher doing it. Your methodologist is the class teacher. When you sit in the class and you have a repertoire of methodology, you look at your students and you decide which one to use. So beyond methods means the teacher forms his or her own ways of doing things. You have a macro framework, as it were, and within that framework, you do things, you theorize from it, you generalize from it, and you are the methodologist, if you please.
Great. Okay. There was one remaining question there about exams. I don't know if maybe both teams would like to make a quick comment. I think the point was that in the real world, exams are it, and therefore, I think the suggestion was that a traditional methodology is required. Maybe both teams would like to comment on that.
Do you want to say something? Yeah. Okay, just, you know, it's the obvious observation that exams are very slow to change. They're the most conservative area of our world in English language teaching. So, you know, if the exams don't change, we owe it to our learners, whose main objective is to pass the examinations, to prepare them for those examinations, even if we find that the examinations are not keeping pace with changes in classroom practices. We still have to teach for the examinations in order to help students to pass. And the reason why we have to do that is because exams don't change. You know, they don't change. They stay until somebody comes up with a better take on examinations. And that sometimes takes 10 or 15 years of testing, pre-testing, pre-trialing, trialing again, pre-trialing the trials, and finally coming up with a better examination. And that's why exams lag behind.
And the opposing team?
I would argue agreement that yes, every good teacher in the world teaches to the exam. Every good teacher teaches to the exam. Excellent teachers teach to the exam and teach to life objectives together, and not only just the exam, but focus on what the student needs to do after the exam. So good teachers teach to the exam, excellent teachers teach both to the exam and to what the student needs to use the language for after the exam.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll take two more questions. One, the gentleman over here, and anybody else? And the lady sitting down here. So first the gentleman there.
Very good evening, gentlemen and ladies. Very good evening, honorable guest. My question is, in the past, the teachers were not given any training, and they were well versed in English. Their English was more fluent. They were more fluent in English, and they had more knowledge of English language and vocabulary. Nowadays, a lot of programs are running throughout the different countries. And so in some countries like Nigeria, there is a traditional method that is followed. And it is run under the government. From 6 years to, I think that 11 years, there's a traditional method that is used in the government schools. And I want to know, what's the main reason that modern teachers having all the new techniques, they're not having that much fluency in English that the previous teachers were having in the past. Thank you.
Okay.
So what's this question?
Actually, in my view, the translation method is the traditional method, but it is we can follow in the classroom for the betterment of the translation will help the student. Rather than explaining, so much of time is taking for the other thing. If we explain in the foreign language, it will take so much of time and it is time consuming. Than that, it is better to explain in translation method. That's the traditional method, of course, but if you follow sometimes the translation method, it will work better, I think, than than giving in the and then another thing I want to tell is it's a psychology. Psychology, it is not based. Traditional method is not based on the psychology. So you can just mix with the new methods. It will work better, I think.
Okay.
So and the debates also. If you give the debates for the student, they will learn better.
All right,
So
I think we've got a good point there.
Debate-based learning is better.
All right, thanks. Look, I'll just summarize. That's enough questions. We've got two questions. One question, I think, something about fluency, and another question about a translation method. So let's pass these last two questions to the panel. Any comments about getting to fluency and about translation methods?
You first.
I'll take the second one. And translation method. I think one of the important points that you brought up talking about translation method was that it wasn't based on psychology and the psychology of learning. And I think this is where we're at a very exciting juncture in English language teaching, is that we're learning more and more about how the brain functions and how learning happens. So as science progresses and we learn more about cognitive psychology and cognitive development, we can actually start tailoring all of these methods and choosing these methods to align more in line with how brains actually learn. So I think that's a valid point, that we do need to start looking at the psychology and more brain-based learning. Yeah, good point.
Okay. I didn't really get the question about fluency clearly enough to answer it.
I can say something.
Yeah. Can you say something about that? Yeah.
So to address, sir, your question, your comment really about teachers' competency in the language, I think we'll all agree that it is important for any teacher of any subject to know the subject that he or she is teaching. So if it's science, they need to know about science. They need to know their subject. So we agree that teachers do need to have, they need to know English. They need to know about English. They need to have subject matter knowledge. And I think my opponents will also agree that that's one of the non-negotiables. It's not about, it doesn't relate really to methodology, but it's more about subject matter.
Okay, now, we've finished with the questions now. we come to the last part from the formal rebuttal or the final summary, first from one proposer and then from one opposer, and they have 4 minutes each to finish off the adversaries' arguments. Okay, so over to the proposers.
Thanks very much, Chair. I think actually this debate, which was set up oppositionally, has probably resulted in us agreeing. I found so much that you were talking about that I actually agreed with, and I think you probably found a few things that I said that you might have agreed with as well, or you might not have done, I'm not sure. I want to tell you a little anecdote of something that happened to me in the back of a class in Germany a few years ago. I was in South Germany observing a class of 15, 16-year-olds in English. And it was your thing about global warming that reminded me of this. They were doing a project-based lesson on atomic power. And atomic power is a big issue in Germany because they have so many nuclear power stations. And it was a project-based lesson, and the kids had been gathering information, and they were making posters in English, illustrated, nice pictures, and all the rest of it. And the teacher was doing a bit of presentation on this to get them moving. And I was sitting at the back of the class, and there were 2 girls there at the back of the class who were muttering and grumbling and you know, generally being a little bit naughty at the back of the class. I thought it was a great class. I thought it was going somewhere, and I thought the kids had a product to aim for. Everything was going really well. Project-based learning, learner-centered learning, everything else. So after the end of the lesson, I tackled these 2 girls, and I said, I noticed that you were not participating very actively or willingly in the lesson. What was the trouble? You know, one of the girls said to me, ach, Atomkraftwerke, hatten wir in der Chemie, hatten wir in Religionsunterricht, hatten wir in der Soziologie. Und jetzt kommt auch noch die doofe Englischlehrerin mit demselben Thema. So, translated, atomic power stations, we did it in chemistry, we did it in sociology, we even did it in the religious studies class. And now the English teacher's laying atomic power stations on us. And I said, what's wrong with that? And she said, well, and she put this to me in German, but I'll give it to you in English. She said, the problem is we want to talk about language. I still don't know the difference between the simple past and your stupid present perfect in English. You know? So I rest my case. This teacher obviously wasn't using any traditional methods. She was using a learner-centered approach, and the kids were saying, teach me English, not about atomic power stations. Thank you.
Okay, can we oppose it?
Well, that was very interesting. Thank you for sharing that anecdote. To summarize what we've been saying so far, the teacher is more responsible today than ever before. We agree that the teacher should be equipped with the knowledge, should have accurate English. Apart from that, there are a few other things that I would put on my shopping list for a teacher going into the classroom. Definitely knowledge of methodology. I think it's a shame if a teacher doesn't know where it all started and the successes of each methodology. We have a guru of ELT who learned German only through the grammar translation method. I think you should know that. It would be foolish not to know that. So knowledge of all methodologies is important on the shopping list. The second thing is, I'm going to listen to my learners. I'm not going to go in with a premeditated agenda. I'm going to do a sort of a needs analysis to find out exactly what their requirements are. I don't want 2 German students at the end saying, why did we do this lesson? We've just had it in chemistry. I want to not give them nasty surprises, but I want to give them exactly what they want. I want to see if everybody is interested in this topic. I want to break the walls that surround us and bring life into the classroom, the slice of life into the classroom. A third thing I want on my shopping list is I want the full use of technology. Whether we like it or not, we don't have a choice now. The student generation take to technology like fish to water. So I'm afraid we don't have a choice. We have to use technology. Think of the internet, the omnipresent, omniscient internet. We've got to use this so that we can bring in ideas from all over the world. We can show, not just open windows, like you said in the morning, but actually break down the walls and make physical classrooms virtual classrooms, because the world is quite big. While we're getting smaller in a sense, it is also quite big. So let's not restrict ourselves to a classroom and the four walls and one traditional method. And what we are saying is this is happening. The good news is this is happening. Teachers are learning as they teach, and they're learning to help students learn better by using this repertoire of methodology as well as technology. Thank you.
Okay, the debate has drawn to a close. We've heard the two teams. We've heard this team propose the motion. This House believes that moving away from traditional methodologies in language education, the baby has been thrown out with the bathwater. I would now like to invite you to vote. First, you may vote in favour of the team proposing the motion, and secondly, you may vote in favour of the team opposing the motion. Therefore, may I ask you to raise your right hand in favour of the team proposing the motion, if that is your choice. Would you put your hands up? Thank you. 222. Those in favour of the opposition to the motion? Something very strange about the lights in here, but I have just counted 221, 222. It's a draw. Congratulations to both teams. Thank you very much to Rod, to Deepali, to Diane, and to Usha. It's been a fantastic conversation, and as we know, I guess there is no single answer to this debate, but it has been a very good debate. Thank you. Thank you.